So you're at Salesforce, right? You're 22 now. You broke in at 19. Um, what would you tell the younger version of yourself, like specifically to do, to get to where you are right now in hindsight? How would they fast track that?
I actually don't think it's so much about the previous experience that you need to have X years of experience or X degree or X thing on your CV.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm probably going to do a little bit of intro, but if I don't, basically today we're here with a longtime friend of mine, Dennis, and we're both going to be talking about tech sales, and specifically we're going to touch on Dennis's story because it's very impressive. Currently, you're working at Salesforce, and you've been there for how long now? Has it been? Do you think?
2 years and a half almost.
Over 2 years. And so Dennis and I actually met back in 2023 when we joined a mentorship group together, right? So we both joined a mentorship. We got mentorship, coaching, and stuff like that with the goal to help us break into remote sales, tech sales, which we ended up getting into. And yeah, start earning a remote income or an in-person income in sales, right? In tech sales, the very lucrative space that it is. Okay. So the crazy thing about Dennis's story that I want to break down is that how old were you when you broke into Salesforce? And then we'll actually rewind a little bit into like your journey a little too.
Yeah, sure. So when I broke into Salesforce, I was 19 years old at that time, and I actually moved the country for the job as well.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And then you're basically an account executive now.
Yeah.
And obviously him and I both broke into, so like I broke into HubSpot and as a BDR, he broke into Salesforce as a BDR, and we were working so closely together on like everything. Um, But yeah, we both joined that mentorship and we had no clue like what we were doing kind of. You joined it before me, I joined in late.
Yeah.
And honestly, Dennis was like helping me out with some things as well in terms of getting up to speed. But yeah, I want to rewind. What I'm curious about is before all this, before you did this at a crazy age without going to college, like when did you get introduced to tech sales specifically?
I actually couldn't remember exactly, but it was probably somewhere around start of 2023. So yeah, I knew like the university and the traditional path wasn't really for me. Like I couldn't
Yeah.
really do it. And I basically knew tech sales for me was like the best next step to do.
Hmm.
And it just felt right. Like I couldn't explain exactly like why
Yeah.
I did it, but it was definitely worth it so far. And yeah.
Yeah. So that's crazy. So, and Dennis is you're from Germany. And a lot of guys out there, I think, that watch my channel too are usually I've worked with people who are straight out of high school and, they're wondering, should I go to college? Should I get into sales, right? I'm curious what your advice would be to someone like that, because that can be a hard place to be where you're kind of on the fence and you have pressures from parents and all this stuff. And so what was your thought process there, and how did you have the courage to like, go against the grain and do something like that?
I did have some pressure from like teachers while I was still in school, from my parents, from my family, from people around me. They were telling me, "Oh, you gotta go this down this path. You gotta do this." And I was just like, "No, no, no. Let's pause for a second and let me just think what I actually want." And I knew university for me wasn't actually the right choice because like I had an intuition about that if I joined the university, I would have quit it. And I basically just knew like I have to find something else. And then this whole mentorship came
Yeah.
along, and basically I kind of was introduced to like getting into sales, and that's the path I followed. I mean, to the people that don't know what they want to do is I would think twice or three times or five times about if you should go to university because it's going to cost a lot of energy and time that you will later maybe not have. Like I'm 22 right now, and it doesn't feel like I'm completely ahead. Like I still have also objectives and challenges and things I kind of want to work on. And I'm actually happy that I'm not like 4 years older because I went to university. Because many people that I actually talk to, and even one mentor of mine said to me like university is actually for most people not worth it. And I think yeah, that's really
Yeah.
the essence of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's inspiring because like people who watch my channel know that I spent 4 years going to university, college, and it basically did nothing for me, right? Like it depends on the person, right? And so yeah, it's cool that you knew that you weren't that type of person who, felt like they need that or do well in it or that it would serve them. And so, yeah, I mean, just being able to make that decision for yourself can be huge. And I hope that inspires like you guys out there. If you're like on the fence about it, like just really follow your intuition. Ask yourself, what do you really feel like is right for you? Right. And then obviously, Dennis is a walking embodiment that getting into sales, which you did shortly after, which we'll talk about, has been probably one of the best decisions that you made at that time. Right. So I guess I'm curious what happened after that. So you made this decision to get a mentorship. I mean, that's even a crazy thing to break down, like, on its own. Like, how did you personally go about, like, learning about mentorship and that someone can help you get into this? Why did you feel like that was better than doing it on your own? What was that kinda like for you, that process?
Just unfolded. It wasn't like, yeah, I should get a mentorship right
Yeah.
now. It was like I was speaking to one guy on Discord actually, and then everything unfolded. I was introduced to my mentor, or not mentor at that time, but becoming my mentor. And basically at that point, like I knew like I have to do something. Like otherwise I might go to university, I might not know what to do, I might just start a business. Like I wasn't actually sure what to do. So getting a bit of guidance in life is really helpful because I don't think you should get guidance on anything and everything because you have to make decisions by yourself. You have to learn sometimes the lessons yourself. I don't think you should learn lessons only through the lessons of others. I think that's often like a misconception, but I think on a path you want to follow, it's really helpful to get a bit of guidance to steer you in the right direction. Because if I wasn't steered, who knows where it would be? Like it could be anywhere, and who knows what would have happened. So I can only say for how it all unfolded is like that I knew like I have to change something, do something about my situation, and that made me kind of like take the leap to just do it.
Yeah, yeah, that's inspiring, man. And yeah, it was similar for me. Like I was trying to build a business because I knew like, all right, I finished college. What do I do? My story was more like I'm trying to just build my own path, and I was failing at different businesses online, and eventually I just networked with people and found, yeah, mentors, and then underwent an actual structured program to help me actually achieve a tangible result, and that's what actually helped me, and that's where I met him as well, right? So that was cool. And then when I had joined into that group, I was like 23, you were 19, right?
I was.
Yeah, and then you were already had tons of momentum, and so when you joined, like, what was your process and path like after that? Like, what did you execute on? What kinda happened from there for you?
So first, it was just about getting the foot in the door. So at first, I was just trying to get any position that is in sales that I could get, and that was kind of like my mindset. I was just like, hey, just give me a chance, I would do well. So this is what I kind of landed in. I landed then in the high ticket space, more or less, and there I was like setting appointments, and I realized this is not really like what I want or what was good for me. And then shortly after, like a few months after, I got into tech sales. Basically, I worked for a startup, and it really helped me actually to shape me. Like I know Chad is always talking about many times that you should get into like a more developed company. My company actually had like 70 employees, and it really helped me because I had a really good manager. I had really good people around me. I learned a lot actually, but I also brought the right traits. I think that's really important, bringing the right traits. So being coachable, being curious, actually like putting in the numbers and putting in the input. Because in sales, you don't even have to be the best. You don't have to be like very good at cold calling. You don't have to be very good at, I don't know, all these things. You just have to put in the volume. And sometimes it's actually enough, even if your call isn't the best or your pitch isn't the best and all these things. Because in the end, like if you don't put in the input, even if your conversion is crazy high, you don't get the output because the input isn't there. So I think that's really
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
No, I like that, and I wanna get more into, like, the specifics on, like, how you actually started to perform well, like, getting into it. But I am curious because there's different schools of thought here, and you and I actually had a similar approach when getting into this space. Like, both got into, like, startup type roles, right? And so, that was at the time, like, the best moves for us, but there's different schools of thought of, like, "Oh, I'm a beginner, like, should I get into, like, a top role like HubSpot, Salesforce, or should I get into like a startup or a mid-sized role?" And I personally think that, it depends on how all in you want to go. It depends on how obsessed you want to go. And it depends on if you have the right support that can fill in some of those skill gaps to help you stand out among the crowd. Um, but what's your opinion? Because you seem to, feel that, and obviously, it was extremely valuable, but the first like real role you got into like Veludico, right? Like that was really valuable, even though it was like 70 employees. Yeah, just I guess I'm curious about like your line of thinking around that one.
I think it really depends on the company. It's like just looking at the employee size isn't enough. Like if you just say, oh, this company has X amount of employees, it really depends also on what type of tech company they are. Like there's
Mm,
AI native startups with 200 employees, which everybody wants to get into right now. So I don't think it's so much about the employee side. It's more about like how how far along are they with the product? How good are they along the journey with like product market fit? How good is the sales team? How are the managers? Like all these things are also components to consider. I think just looking at employee size alone isn't enough. And I personally think if you're just looking into like a BDR, SDR role, I don't think the employee size is like the deciding factor. It's actually personally, if went right into Salesforce, I don't think I would have had the same learning journey. I don't think so. I think it's actually good to start somewhere where it's actually maybe even harder from a product perspective and from like figuring out the market, figuring out what works. You can test a lot of things in a smaller environment because you have like a safety net to fail because it's normal. Like when you and like 99% of companies aren't ever touched. You can do a lot of things. You can try out, you can see what works, you can try different approaches. You can also do that in bigger companies, but in smaller companies it's a bit easier because there's less kind of like rules of engagement. For example, like when I was at Voludico, I could just like prospect into the whole like German market and just see what comes back. It wasn't like I had a specific territory or I had a specific segment or anything. I could just like try my approach. So I think that's really helpful. But yeah, for people like that say, hey, I want to have like a really like a predictable, like I want to be super safe. I think then it might make sense to go in a company which like has 200 to 500 employees or above 1,000. But yeah, I think if you really want to like break into the space, I think it's more important starting somewhere than just like having very high standards. And that's just it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I like what you're saying there, and yeah, I think it depends on the person, right? And I think that getting into a smaller company or a mid-sized company right at the start can be lower friction, lower resistance, and you can also still learn a ton, right? Like you don't need to always get into like your ultimate role from the start, right? And the ironic thing about it is too is if you get some hands-on experience in like a startup or a mid-sized company, obviously, I think I steer my clients toward getting a little more structure like a mid-size. But I think the benefits of doing that is it'll make those interviews a lot easier, and it'll help you actually get a feel for the space too before like going all in on maybe what would be a harder interview process, right? So that's
And
cool.
I can only talk from my experience. I mean, I haven't worked at a company with like 2,000 employees or something. I went like from 70
Yeah,
employees to 80,000 employees. So I don't really have so much nuance to say like how it
yeah,
is in between. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I would say,
Yeah.
yeah,
So let's
100%.
talk about that jump then, because that was we were together. So we were still in the mentorship group, and we were both in our different roles. Like you were in that, semi, structured company. I was in like a very early startup, and we were both just like reading books, getting the most out of like our activity, just like booking meetings, winning, all that
Yeah.
stuff. But then there came a point when we felt like, dude, like it's time for us to like go and like, make more cash, get somewhere more structured and yeah, what did it look like from there? I think I'm thinking about when we took a trip and like met in person in like Finland and we all like set goals with each other, but you want to talk on like the process from there?
Sure. So basically, I actually enjoyed the time at Veludico a lot. I think it was actually like one of the greatest roles I could have ever had starting out. But then I realized like I have to sometimes jump into cold water again to grow. And if you just stay in the same spot always and you think, okay, I'm going to grow in the same company to an AE role and you're just going to wait, sometimes that can actually hurt you later on because sometimes you just need to do it. So I was thinking, okay, I need to just get like into a bigger company just to like make a step up. Sometimes have a new challenge is also what people look at. And then I actually got a message. Like I was making the plan with Chad. Like we were doing it at I think 20th of December or like
Yeah,
middle to end of December, basically.
2023.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're doing the plan of like getting into like a bigger company. And at that point we were kind of set on the goal. So we were practicing together, we were doing role plays, all of this. And I had a message from Salesforce actually 3 weeks later after setting the goal. How surprising. So and then I
It was a
basically
recruiter, right?
it was a
Recruiter reached out to
yeah,
you.
yeah. So it was a recruiter reaching out to me. I had the first call with him. I went through the whole interview process, and I was actually practicing with Chad during the whole time. So I
That
think
was crazy.
that
Yeah.
really helped me, and you did the same. Like
We like, I mean, yeah, for me, I was waking up at like 5 a.m., but like it was the dynamic of us two working toward the same goal. And like we were just making it unreasonable not to achieve. Like I wanted to get into HubSpot, he wanted to get into Salesforce. Like we kind of obsessed about this thing, right? To the extent where we were doing like almost daily interview preps with each other, right? And like this is a space that I want to pass to you guys too, is like get obsessed about this, right? Like a lot of people just try and, I need a job, or, they're just like trying to get a job quick. And like, that's not the energy that gets people hired at staturable roles like Salesforce and HubSpot. Like they want the people who show that hunger, who actually have that passion and drive, and who are a little bit obsessed about them specifically, right? Those are the people that get hired among the crowd. And so Dennis and I were making it undeniable that when we showed up on these interviews, which we were confident that we wouldn't give up until we got them, that we would make it happen, right? So anyways, not to cut you off, but just wanted to add that there.
and I think actually those companies, especially in earlier state of roles like BDR, SDR, I actually don't think it's so much about the previous experience that you need to have X years of experience or X degree or X thing on your CV. I think it's more about who you are. Like, are you confident in the interview? Do they see like you're kind of moldable into a good salesperson? Do they see the potential? Do they, maybe a bad thing could be, do they see risk in you? Do they see that you could be like a risk hiring you? You also got to look at it from like the recruiter or hiring manager perspective. They're thinking, hey, is this person going to also grow into a better role? Are they going to promote to an AE role? Like all of these things they have in their mind. So it's really important to consider that, not just think, okay, it's just about being maybe like doing a lot of cold calls, because it's not about that. Like these companies are investing in you in some way as well. Like it takes some time, energy. The managers have to train you. They have to get you through training. Like all of this is also an investment into you. So they also want to make sure that you are worth the investment.
Yeah, and I like this. I like what we're talking about here. I think one thing that if you guys are watching this right now, you're probably like, okay, like I obviously want to break into tech sales. I'd love to get the best role I can get, right? And you've gone through, I mean, Salesforce is probably one of the biggest companies in the space entirely, right? And so having gone through a process like that, right? Interviewing, going through all of that, in hindsight now, what advice would you give someone um, who is looking to just interview in general, or like break into a top tech role? Like what would be your distilled advice for them if they were in this room right now? Like over there.
Um, if I was interviewing again, I would actually like, I took it very serious, the whole interview process. I didn't see it like, yeah, it's just an interview. I was actually like, if I get this role, it will change my whole life. So I was looking at it like that. And I was seeing the interview day, I was seeing it like me being on stage and it being like showtime. I have to deliver now. So I was thinking about it this way. And I was actually like, I was just trying to minimize the odds as much as possible to not get it. And how I did that was just like practicing every day. I was doing research. I was talking to people in the company. This is actually one of the most valuable things. I talked to one BDR who was also in a similar team for that I was interviewing for. And he gave me a lot of advice. And I think without this advice, I maybe would have been less confident going into the interview. Because I could name it. I could say, hey, I spoke to this guy on previously, and he helped me a lot. And he said to me this. What do you think about that? So these type of things, like these nuances that like other people might not do, gives you an edge, because most people don't come so prepared to interviews. This is actually like what makes most people fail.
Mm-hmm.
It's not only about like, hey, this person doesn't have the qualities. I mean, some people don't, and that's okay. But some people actually don't prepare enough. But you should always see this interview as like, it could actually like change your life, because it will. Like if you get the job, maybe you move to a different city, maybe you get a new like skill set, maybe you get a new learning experience. Like it could be many things, but like you're not on the interview for fun. Like maybe in some way you are, but you want to learn something and you want to grow. So this is kind
Yeah.
of like the message I would give.
Yeah. Yeah, like, that's the mindset with it too, like, what you're saying is you are just genuinely actually, like, actually curious, actually, like, wanting to make connections with people, like, I think a lot of people, like, will watch my videos and, like, read my book and be like, "Oh, like, so I'm just gonna make a connection with somebody because that's what's gonna get me a better chances of getting a role," instead of just approaching it from a place of, like, I'm actually curious about connecting with someone in the role and learning about, like, what the role is like and,
Yes.
like, actually because these people will smell that on the interviews. They're gonna smell if you're just trying to check the boxes on, like, "Well, I did this and this and this, and this is why I'm the best." No, but, like, they're gonna feel if you have the genuine curiosity, the genuine tinge of obsession, right? The genuine, all of that, like, the realness, right? And so that's a lot of what I'm getting
I
from
agree. And
what you're
what I would
saying too.
like to add is that most people would actually be happy to speak to you if you reach out to them on LinkedIn. Like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm actually curious to learn what you're doing there. I have a couple of questions, framed in a nice way. Most people are actually like open to do that. Like, I had one guy reach out to me in the past to speak about Valudico, and I told him like things that could really help him in the interview, like about like the role, the company, the product, etc. And I mean, he got the role, but I think it helped him. And many people actually don't do that. Like, I didn't get many messages so far being at Salesforce. Hey, I have an interview coming up. Can you help me? There's not many people
Yeah.
do that. So you will already stand out by just sending the message. And to add to that, like most of these people have been helped. It's not like they have never been helped and they are not open to helping you. It's more like those people have been helped in the past, and most people are willing to give back. This is what I realized along the way, that it's actually that people are happy to give back oftentimes.
Yeah, yeah, and that's funny that you said that because, yeah, I also like, when I was at HubSpot, I would get a decent amount of people reach out to me every now and then, but yes, not nearly, like, as much as people probably think. Like, if you have the thought of, like, "Oh, like, it's not worth me reaching out to this person, or they probably get tons of messages," like, it's really not the case. Like, you're literally at Salesforce in a crazy role, right? Like, crazy for people watching this, right? So and you're barely getting people, like, reaching out to you, which if they did and they had the right, like, personalized approach, you would actually give them the time of day and maybe wanna help. Is that kinda what you're saying, right? That's crazy that people don't leverage that. So take that as a lesson too, like, leverage, reach out to people, make connections because, yeah, you had, like, the recruiter helping you too, but you also, like, went out of your way to, like, find someone else on LinkedIn and connect with them, and that helped you stand out during the whole process. Yeah. So that's crazy. Okay. The other thing I wanna talk about is, like, limiting beliefs, right? I hear so many limiting beliefs. There's so many people that I speak with. The biggest one is probably, like, the job market is shit, right? And I actually speak with some people who are in, like, Germany, other places in Europe too, and I hear this from people over there as well, but, like, what's your opinion on that? Like, the job market is shit. Do you think it's, like, a mindset? Do you think it's, like what do you think about
I think
that
it's
one?
easy to make excuses when something isn't going as planned. I don't think any of those excuses are actually valid. I mean, to some degree, there might be, but if you just say, "Oh, the job market is shit," and you don't do anything about it, okay, then that's your problem. Like in the end, you can only control what you can control, and that's it. Like the rest, like the job market, you can't control. You can't control if people are replying to your messages. You can't control if you do a perfect interview that like actually you get the role. Like you can only control your part. And I think that's what people should focus on, because that's really the main thing. And on those limiting beliefs, I had many. I mean, I was very young. I was 19 years old, like trying to join a company that is like top of the market. that like people actually want to be in even at like 30 years old for the same role. So I was like, when I joined, like I was surrounded by people 5 to 10 years older, and I had to deal with that at first. But those limiting beliefs at the start were just like adapting to environment as well. Like it's good to have someone breaking those beliefs. Like Chad was sometimes saying, I'm not sure if HubSpot will say I'm a job hopper. I was like, no, 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 no.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So we broke those beliefs each other, like thinking what we were thinking. So I think having someone around you who's kind of on the same trajectory and on the same journey really helps, because you feel like you're not alone in this. Because if I did all of this, like interview processes, job, sales, everything, if I did all of that alone, it would have been more like lonely and harder. Because if you had a wall, what do you do?
Yeah, that's why it was so valuable to have, like, connections, meet other people in a group and or a mentorship or something like that where we were all working toward the same goal, and that just creates, like, an energetic space of, like, that is conducive to supporting, supporting you, helping you not fall into your own, like, lonely holes of, like, "Oh, like, this is unrealistic," when you don't have feedback and other people to, like, bounce stuff off of, so that's another thing that was extremely valuable that yeah, honestly, if I didn't have, I don't know what would have happened or where I would be, honestly, because yeah, in hindsight, it doesn't seem that crazy to me or you, like, where we are, but back then, it was like I was like, "No way, like, I'm not the type of person who can be valuable enough to get into a company like that." Like, that was actually my mindset, right? And I think a lot of people have that, and yeah, so limiting beliefs are huge.
And you get adapted quite quickly. I'm not like people would maybe look
Yeah,
at this and say, "Wow, Dennis, you got in Salesforce at 19." For me, it's pretty normal. It sounds weird, but you get
yeah,
so adapted to your circumstances that like after you got the role, you will think it's the most normal thing ever. So
yeah.
it only seems crazy before it happened, but when it happens, then you're like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, because your identity is literally shifting, and it's actually going through that process when you're, like, setting the goal to do it, like, it's literally an identity shift, and sometimes when, like, you have shifts like that, like, the first identity shift is like, "Okay, I'm going from not believing I can do this thing or get into it to then having to, like, blindly believe that I can," and then all of a sudden your identity will shift that, "Oh, I actually can do this," right? And then you get more identity shifts of like, "Oh, I actually can get into, like, the best of this space," and realize how you know, everybody working here are just other people too, right? Like
Yeah,
there's a process that happens. And that's the other limiting belief that people give me is like, can I actually do this? Like, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can cold call and book meetings and do this stuff. Did you have any of that? Because I know I did. But what was that like for you? And when did you build confidence that like I believe I can do this shit, you know?
it was something innate. I feel like also the belief. It wasn't like, yeah, I was just like believing it suddenly. I think I had like a confidence in what I could do. Maybe a bit delusional, maybe not. I couldn't say for sure, but I was like, if you give me a role, if you give me a chance, I will crush it. This was the underlying belief. And I think this is what people should carry in themselves, because in reality, it is like that. Like if you have the right traits, like you're coachable, you're curious, like you want to actually put in the numbers. If you bring this to the table and you have like you can like you have a dialer or you have a phone, like you can make it happen. Like you don't have to be very good at what you do or very good at cold calling. I've seen people that are actually not so good at cold calling and they still outperform the rest like by a lot by just putting in the volume. It's actually like people make it more complicated than it really is. Like it's not that hard to do it. Like I think if you were becoming like I don't know, like a doctor or something that's actually complicated where you have to like go to university for many years, that's different. But sales is just like in some way you communicate with people, and booking the meeting is actually the easiest part. Then when it comes to closing a deal, that's a different thing, because then there's more components of like you have to have the right stakeholders. You have to you have to make sure you follow really the deal cycle. You understand the problems, you understand the pain, you do proper discovery. And then along the journey, you like get into pricing, all this signature. So this is much more complex than just doing a simple call and just saying, basically you will have your pitch, you have your calling script or whatever you use, and then you just use that, and it's kind of plug and play, and you adapt along the journey. I mean, for me,
Yeah.
it was actually like the first month I did like very well for not having any like cold calling experience.
Yeah, and it's just because you came in with drive and yeah, you did the basics well, right? And you didn't overcomplicate it. And that was the same with me, like, and again, I think that, being, working together and having someone else that is, like, on the same mission help, like, be conducive to us getting good results early on in our new roles as well because we both were like, the mindset is huge, right? And so yeah, and that's what I say as well, like, it's really like, you can overcomplicate the shit out of all of this and, like, think it's super complex, or you could just do the basics well, like, I've worked with performance coaches, people with, like, four times P Club award winners, and I've literally gotten how to do sales well boiled down to me in such a simple essence, and it really just is, do the basics well, right? What are the 80/20s of the role? And just do as much as you can of that, right? And just ignore everything else. Like, you want to be productive, time efficient, and just doing the basics, right? If you do the basics and you're like not an intelligent, natural born salesperson, which I don't even think exists,
Yeah.
you're going to blow past, and you do that consistently, you're going to blow past anybody who's like super smart and like, tactical or like has some extra complexity stuff, but then doesn't just do the basics consistently. Would you
Yeah,
agree on that?
it's just the input. Honestly, like
Yeah.
if you just have the intention to do well and you put in the input, I don't think much wrong can happen because you will adapt. You will learn through the lessons. You'll make mistakes. And actually, that's people always told me, yeah, Dennis, just make a lot of mistakes. I was like, I don't want to make mistakes. I want to like do it properly now.
Yeah.
But that's sometimes not the right approach to just think like, yeah, I just want to like, because mistakes are part of the journey. Like we have limited information. It's not like we know everything. I don't know everything. Chad doesn't know everything. None of the people know everything. So we can just like deal with what we know and make decisions based on that. And I think it's actually it's like very easy to give up. It's very easy when you fail your first interview and they say, hey, you got the offer. That actually happened to me. You got the offer and they just like withdraw. It's very easy to give up and think like, maybe this isn't for me. But actually, that's the point where you can either like change your life or you can just like go back to the previous version of you and just keep doing what you're doing. And I think actually if you go back to the previous version, you might end up in a worse shape than before. So I actually had that happening to me, that I had an interview with actually a bigger company. I think they had 1,000 employees. And I was very close to getting the role. I had 3 interviews, I think, at this point, like one with the BDRs, one with the recruiter, one with the BDR manager. So I had different interviews, role play. I had to do a presentation, all of this thing. And then they told me, yeah, we're good to go. You will just speak to the VP of sales and then you'll basically almost start. So it was just like 20-minute conversation with the VP of sales. And then if that goes well, like, which is kind of like a just thumbs up or thumbs down just to check if personality is right for the team. And then they told me, no, we don't want to move forward. We want to have someone that's like willing to stay longer in the sales development role. And I was like, somehow I was like, why? Why did it just happen? Like, I was in my mind already picturing like being there. And then like, it kind of like made me start from, it felt like I was starting from zero. But in reality, I wasn't starting from zero because I made learnings along the way that I could now use for the next thing.
Mhm.
So it's yeah, you have
Yeah.
to always see the nuance and thinking, hey, like sometimes you have to like make a failure to like grow into the next thing.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree, and, like, if you think of it this way, like, I like to think of this whole thing as like a flywheel, like breaking into tech sales. Like, you start at the bottom, you get your branding right, you optimize your branding, LinkedIn profile, resume, and you get that good. And eventually, if that's good enough, and you're approaching companies in the right way, you're gonna start generating interviews, which is like the next piece of the flywheel, right? And then on there, right, you could do as many interviews as possible. You could fail, fail, fail. But if you're continuing to go through feedback loops, repetition, and practicing, eventually you're going to go to the top of the flywheel, which is getting offers, right? So, like, as long as you just don't give up, you can continue to refine your branding. You can continue to refine how you show up on interviews and how you're applying to companies if you're going above and beyond, reaching out to people, connecting, approaching them with a genuine, curious mindset and interest in them specifically. Like, eventually, you're going to start converting and getting offers, right? It's just about not giving up and continuing to do it. And I actually want to ask you this, and this is probably like the last question. So you're at Salesforce, right? You're 22 now. You broke in at 19. Um, what would you tell the younger version of yourself, like specifically to do, to get to where you are right now in hindsight? How would they fast track that?
I don't think any decision that I would have made differently would have made it happen like way faster. I think I actually did the right thing. And that's sometimes hard to think about, but I actually did what I did in a very short time. And like I think it exactly happened how it should have happened. Maybe what I would have done differently is just think of the future in a state that it kind of has already happened. So I was like, I had so many limiting beliefs. I think that which are normal to some degree. Like it's normal to think like, hey, wow, like I'm so young, like I didn't go to university, I don't have this experience that maybe other people have. That's totally normal. But I think just staying positive when things don't go as planned would make the journey more pleasant because it can get like unenjoyable if things are not going as planned and you get upset and you think, oh wow, why did this happen, or why did you sometimes can spiral down. So I think just keeping like positive with the journey and thinking things will work out somehow, that's like putting your mind at least at ease in some way. I think like that would have just made it more pleasant. Saying that like there's this one specific hack that I would have used to do it even faster, I think that doesn't exist. Like
Yeah.
I think like what I did was right for me at that time. And if I would say like, yeah, you should do exactly this, it would
Yeah,
just
yeah. No, I get it. It's about keeping that mindset and just sticking with the goal, right? And not trying to like find some hack. Just continue to keep going until it happens, right?
and it's really simple if you just dial it down. Like, I mean, I went through this whole journey. I was very young. Some people have a lot more to tell than me. Like, I was like basically right out of school. Like, I was pretty young. I didn't have so much life experience. All this, I caught up with everything of that, so it's not a problem. But many people have a lot of things to tell, and they have more experience than they think they have. But sometimes people try to make themselves like smaller than they are, which personally like it's somehow it's normal, like thinking, yeah, these people must be somehow special. But in the end, like I have been at Salesforce for some time. I've spoken to various different people, a lot of people actually, and those are just regular people. Like it's not like there's some super humans like and they know everything and they're the smartest people in the world. Like of course they have some qualifications and some skills that maybe other people don't have, but you can build those skills. It's not like they're special and you can never reach that place. Like I think it's possible for I don't think it's possible by the way for everyone. I think it's possible for most people with the right mindset, with the right attitude, and willing to wait. Like if you right now are not in sales yet and you want to get into sales and directly jump to Salesforce, I think that just won't happen because Salesforce gets like I don't know 2 million applications per year, and they have to filter out a lot of applications to just make sure that it gets like kind of feasible. So I think it's good to kind of take it in phases. So I don't know, if you first start out, you just want to get like a role. It can be, as Chad says, like in a more mid-sized company. It can be in a startup. I think for me, the startup was actually the right thing. I think if I was in a bigger company, it would have helped me less because it would have been more structured to a degree that maybe I would have lost a bit of autonomy. But I can't say how it is to work in mid-sized companies because I haven't done that. I just can't speak from my startup experience.
Yeah.
Mm, And then you go to the next role. Maybe it's like, I don't know, you start at like 200 to 500 and then you go to, I don't know, 5,000. Of course, you have to also look at the pay and look at the compensation, how it is to work there, what learning experience you get. Like those are all like things that are important. It's not just like the employee size because in the end, that can change,
Yep.
or the space you want to be in. Maybe you want to be in a specific tech space. Like Chad and me were both in the CRM space. Maybe you want to be in the AI space or in the,
Mhm.
I don't know,
Yeah.
manufacturing space, or who knows. There's so many different fields and so many different spaces that you could go into if you want to kind of specialize as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I would just take it step by step.
Yeah. And are there outliers that can go from absolute beginner, like working at a cafe or other things and get into roles like that, like outliers, definitely there are cases of that as well. And I've personally seen that firsthand. But in general, for someone starting out, right? And obviously depends on the person and everyone, there's different schools of thoughts for this, but yeah, it really is in general, you want to work your way up for sure. And yeah, getting hands-on experience can make, interviews at companies like Salesforce a lot easier for you as well, right? And so, yeah, I mean, totally agree with your advice there. Okay, honestly, like, I think, is there anything else that you feel like you want to share? Or Lachlan is sitting in the corner over there, our friend Lachlan as well. Like, what input do you have based on our discussion from afar?
You even hear me?
I think I'll reiterate your words.
I did door-to-door sales. And my main goal was this high volume, get 100 doors a day, and that's where I had the best results. And I'm not a sales guy, but that's what I can say.
Yeah, so he did door to door, and his advice is like hammer activity, right? Volume, don't complicate it. Go knock on the doors, and that works, right? Yeah, and now he's a professional content creator and running his own business now. So, but anyways, that's it. I think we have. Do you have anything else that you wanted to share?
I don't know. It depends on anything you're
Yeah.
curious about.
No, I think it's good. I think we covered a lot.